Well, hello there. Welcome to Real WW Talk. I'm Erin.
And I'm Rikki.
And we are Candice list tonight, but she is enjoying some rest. And so we hope that she is getting all of that and more tonight.
Absolutely.
So, Rikki, I know we took off last week, so we didn't see each other a lot,
Mhm.
or really even talk a lot. So, what's it been for you? What's your week been like?
Well, it's been busy getting ready for spring break, and now I am on spring break, relaxing, enjoying some time off. Um, but it was a busy week with a lot went on, a lot of emotional things at work. But I was just glad that Friday came. It went quickly, and I could just get off and rest. But yeah, I feel like I was able to help build some more habits last week, which was good. I had a loss the week before, and then I did have a slight gain the week after, so that was a little disappointing. But what I did see is kind of a reflection on that is just how quickly we can build up habits and how quickly we can lose them. So that's the biggest thing I learned from that. And I tried to just focus on some smaller things instead of an all or nothing mentality, because I think a lot of times Candice is our all or nothing girl, and I think you can be too. So I don't always identify that way, but I kind of noticed that with working out, I am like, if I feel like I can't get up the energy to do a 30-minute workout, there's no point in doing anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, what if I just did something for 5 minutes? Um, and what if I just, even if it sounds silly to turn on the TV or to get on the bike for 5 minutes, like what? But it just reminds me again of Atomic Habits. There was this one example of a guy who would drive to the gym and get out and go work out for 5 minutes and then go home. And it sounds silly and seems ridiculous. People could have even been making fun of him. But the point is that he was going every day, and the habit is so
Mm-hmm.
much more important than the intensity, at least initially. So that's something I learned this week.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I think that's one of the things that's kept me, I talked about this before. I shut my laptop at 4 o'clock and I
Mhm.
go for my walk, and I have not worried about the intensity at all. It's literally just been the habit of shutting my laptop off,
Mhm.
getting in the car and going for that walk
Yeah.
through no matter the weather, except for rain. I'm just not
Mhm.
about, I've got glasses and I don't have windshield wipers for my glasses. And
Oh man.
that's just terrible. It's the worst. Rain on glasses is the worst. But
Yeah.
otherwise, you saw me this year getting fleece workout clothes
Yes, in the
and
winter.
walking when it was 30 degrees outside because I was like, I know if I don't do this, I will literally do nothing. And
Mhm.
I need that movement outdoors, even as cold as it was.
Yeah. That's impressive. I mean, that's what it really is about. It's about the habit, and it's about doing it, because I think it does get to a point where it's automatic. Like in the beginning, it's definitely not. But when it gets to a point where it's an automatic, you don't have to convince yourself to do it. And that's where I'm trying to get.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll take a little bit, but I started that in August,
Okay.
right? So how September, October, November, December, January, February, March, 8 months. Wait, hold on, I gotta count it up. Yeah, so I've been doing that for 8 months,
Mhm.
but I would say it really only took me about a month
Okay.
to really, and really it was just more, it was less about going for the walk and more about shutting off
Mhm.
work and shutting off my brain and creating a new
Mhm.
space.
Yeah.
So kind of a different goal. How
Yeah.
about the vegetables? Because you had that friend who came and took you and did
Mhm.
shopping for the veggies. How's that going?
Yeah. It's been not as intense as it was that first week. I found that I did still waste some veggies at the end of that week. I think I just bought way too many. It's been better. I had a salad tonight. I had 2 salads today.
What?
Now that I think about it, it was 2. My challenge is still over the weekend, getting them in on those days, but I've been doing better with getting them in during the week. So there's definitely improvement.
Look
And
at
I've also
you.
been creative about how I get them in, like, having a juice with, a vegetable juice or something, or a smoothie that has veggies in it. So I've been a little more creative. So, because it used to be just broccoli, like that's what I like. I'll have broccoli, and then I got
Mhm.
bored of it, and it died in the fridge. So definitely improving with that.
Look at you.
Yeah.
I
What about you
know.
though? How was your week?
So I've set this goal that I'm just maintaining right now until I get through this big work project.
Mhm.
But I've also been trying to practice what I've been calling radical accountability
Okay.
to my tracker,
I love
and
that.
I've made a couple switches because while I have been maintaining, I have felt like I've been on the edge of like maintain slash gain kind of a
Mhm.
thing. And I'm just trying to figure out what that is. So I've done two things.
Okay.
One, I've disconnected and taken off my Fitbit,
Hmm.
which that sounds really bonkers, right? But I've
Mhm.
realized that for right now, I need to not have that hanging over my head,
Okay.
especially if I'm going out and I'm walking and I'm practicing the habits. That's a good thing for me to do, and I
Okay.
need to be able just to rest in that. I
Mhm.
switched my activity from counting steps to counting minutes.
Okay.
So now I'm tracking every day just the minutes that I'm doing. And before every day when I was getting 10 and 12 points,
Mhm.
because it was also adding in my steps and it was
Mhm.
adding in the activity from the tracker, I'm
Okay.
only getting 1 point a day from
Wow.
activity.
Okay.
So I was eating those 10 to 12 points each
Mm.
week. So I've now taken away 70 points,
Mm.
70
Wow.
extra weekly points, right?
That's a big difference.
It's a big difference. And so that is like, okay, I'm gonna do this, right? Let me just see what happens. So I've just
Mhm.
been focusing on the water, the vegetables, and there's my one activity point for my 30-minute walk at medium intensity. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been doing so I did that.
Okay.
And then I have been practicing, like I said, radical accountability to my tracker, where in the past I would I would eat and then I would track. And
Mm.
wherever it fell, like, I've got a gauge in my head kind of a thing. Wherever it
Yeah.
fell is what it fell. And if it went to the weeklies, it went to the weeklies, no big deal.
Mhm.
I've switched my thought process and I'm starting now with a number and then
Okay.
choosing my food based on the number, what I have.
Mm. Mhm.
So I've been eating according to the number and trying to actually stick just within my daily points.
Mhm.
And then when I have a little bit of an overflow, I'm like, "Oh, okay, you know what? I want a little bit of a different dessert today."
Mhm.
Then I will pull that from the weeklies. But I
Okay.
will say I've done really well the past
Mm.
couple of weeks. I'm actually, instead of maintaining, I've lost weight, which is
Oh,
nice to be
good.
able to see, but that hasn't been my goal. My goal
Yeah.
has just been the accountability part of
Mhm.
it. And I will say that when you start with the tracker first versus the food first, it's a mind shift.
Mhm.
It's a big mind shift,
Mhm.
because I'm like, "Okay, how do I" for me, I have 23 points a day. I know some people may have less, some people have more, but I'm like, "Okay, how do I do this?" And I'm like, "That's where you really gotta lean into your
Mhm.
0." So, the
Yeah.
basic turkey burger, shout out to the basic turkey burger in the WW app. I'm eating that pretty much every day, but I'm eating it with one of my gluten-free buns,
Mhm.
a little bit of light mayo, a little bit of lettuce, some pickles, and that
Mhm.
makes me happy. Having veggies alongside it. I've been
Mhm.
I've been consistently full. I haven't been unfull,
Okay.
but I've been exercising that no muscle because it comes to around
Uh-huh.
like 7 p.m. and I'm like, I feel like eating.
Mhm.
You feel like eating, but are you hungry?
Hmm.
And learning what is habit around food versus what's hunger around food has been something that I've been really, really aware of the past few
Mhm.
weeks. So,
That's good. It sounds like you've done a lot of mental work with, between acknowledging the tracker and like the issues with, for you, how having the activity tracker and the Fitbit may not be as helpful and having all those extra points isn't as helpful. And then how you can also just shift your mind with, how you input your food. I think that all of those things are radical. I love that word.
mhm.
And I think that's, great that you're seeing that and having the focus on the behavior rather than the scale, even though you are seeing that scale go down, it's the behaviors that are helping you, not focusing on the number. So
Yeah.
kudos to you.
Rikki, you just mentioned that about the behaviors. So I want to ask you, because I know you went to a virtual meeting
Yeah.
and I went to an in-person meeting, and our coach, in-person coach Nadine, she put a challenge out for everyone to listen to at least one of the WW, was it Walk Talks, I think is what they
Uh-huh.
call it. It's inside
Uh-huh.
the app, and it's Oprah, there's Giada from the Food Network and Matthew McConaughey. And I'm going to be completely honest, I have not listened to them, frankly, because I'm a judgy McJudgerson. I'll just say that there's really no good reason other than I've asked myself, what in the world is Matthew McConaughey going to talk to me about? Weight loss or
Mm-hmm.
Giada?
Mm-hmm.
And that's terrible. That's
Mm-hmm.
terrible. So I decided today to take Nadine's challenge, and I
Okay.
thought I'm going to start first with Gary Foster, the walk talk that they did with Gary Foster, who wrote The Shift,
Okay.
and he is WW's chief science officer. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
halfway through. I actually didn't walk while I did it. I just sat and listened to it. Broke the rules on that. Nobody's going to tell me what to do.
There's a rebel there.
Such a rebel. You can't make me walk. I'll do it myself. Sit down for this. But so back to your thing about keying in on the behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that he brought up in the 7 mindset shifts for lasting weight loss, one of those was focusing on behavior goals instead of just weight goals,
Mm-hmm.
because the behavior goals will lead to weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
And if we only base our goals around just weight, there are going to be times when we're going to be disappointed because sometimes we don't get the weigh-in we deserve the week we deserve it.
Yeah.
And if we have those behavior goals to focus on around it, that makes those weeks a little less disappointing because we can point to good, behavior changes
Mm-hmm.
that we made.
Yeah. And also it's like, like you said, if it's not going exactly, the scale's not going exactly the way we want it to, you can have that feedback as to say, my goal was to have blue dots 5 days out of 7, but let's say you look back and said, oh, I only had blue dots 2 days. That makes sense. Or maybe you had blue dots 5 days and then you're realizing, oh, but I forgot to track something. Or, you can kind of pick up on what's going on. And then you can also be alerted to if maybe there's something else outside of our control, like is it sodium? Is it, something, thyroid issues some people have. So it kind of cue you into things that are in your control and things that may not be in your control.
Yeah. And I know for me, I think it's what did I say? I have to go back and look at my tracker, but because I have the data, it's
Mm-hmm.
every 3rd week or 4th week, I gain weight or I
Mm-hmm.
stay the same. And remember for a while, I was having like these 4 or 5 pound gains. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I did not do anything to deserve a 4-pound gain. So I
Mm-hmm.
know something is funky with my body. And then that next week it would be gone.
Mm-hmm.
So having the data to keeping in mind some weeks we don't get the weigh-in we deserve the week we deserve it.
Right.
And if we can look at our other behavior things, we can look at our trackers and we know that we can honestly go, this is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Chalk it up to this is weird. And it's a moment where we realize we can only be in control of so much. And our
Mm-hmm.
body reminds us that it's really the one in control.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get discouraged and try and take it as a week of feedback and go, okay, I'm going to look forward to next week because I want to see what happens next week.
Mm-hmm.
If I just keep doing the same thing,
Exactly.
just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah. So I've been going to a virtual meeting on Saturday mornings, 9 o'clock, Felicia B. Wonderful group, really encouraging group. And I think she's an encouraging leader as well. So I've really enjoyed that. But something that I picked up from there was also about habits. And the tech person from WW who was in there, Brown Girl Tracking, her name is Tracy, shared that she listened to James Clear's podcast because I had mentioned something in the chat about James Clear, and I didn't realize he was actually on Brene Brown. It was Brene Brown's podcast where he was a guest, and it was a 2-part series within her podcast, and it was just incredibly interesting to listen to that. So I listened to it last week, or I guess earlier in the week, and it was really interesting to hear him talk about his behaviors and also things that he had in the book but elaborated on. And the 2 things that I really took away with me were, how to be intentional about setting a habit and making it not about the intensity of the habit. Like, for example, a lot of people set the goal to do 100 push-ups, and they'll say, okay, I'm going to just do 100 push-ups. And they just start trying to do 100 push-ups without any staggering up to that or, working up to that ability. It's just like, I'm just going to do it. And it's a common thing to see those different goals out there, but they don't have a starting point. And I think that's where we go wrong a lot of the times. So I applied that to myself with working out this week. And instead of just saying, I have to do a 30-minute plus workout, or I'm not going to do anything at all, I started with 10 minutes. Can I do a 10-minute workout every day? And I worked out more this week than I had in a while. So that was really meaningful to me. And another thing that was meaningful as well was just learning from the podcast about cues in our environment and how important they are. And one example the podcast gave was, if let's say you're in your living room and you know where things are, it's automatic to reach to the right to touch the remote and, change the channel or turn something on. But what if we put a book there instead? If I have a goal, to read for 10 minutes a day, but I have trouble doing it, is it that I don't have time, or that my environment's set up in a way that I'm more likely to reach for things that are automatic? So how can I change that environment by putting the book there instead of the remote, so that I reach it and I say, hey, oh yeah, I forgot I was going to do that. Let me read for 10 minutes and then watch TV. So that was meaningful.
I love that idea of changing the environment. Like, how does your environment need to adapt so that you can go do X, Y, Z? I think that's so. If I'll go back to my walking as an example, in order for me to go out walking in the winter, I needed to have the right clothing and gloves to be able to go do it. I needed to have that environment for the outside environment. And if I didn't have those, I would not have done that at all this winter.
Yeah. And some of it have to do with, like, did you have to put them out, or did they have to be visible? Because I know sometimes that's a barrier. Like, if I don't set my clothes out, it's an excuse to say, like, oh, I don't know what to wear, or I don't want to have to dig.
I didn't for that one, because I feel like my trigger, my action trigger for that is closing the laptop lid.
Okay.
So for me, it's like, what's the next step that you take after you do one thing? And so for me, it was closing the laptop lid, getting out of my chair, going to the room that's adjacent, putting the clothes on, and getting in the car and going for the walk. Like that's the whole string of things. But I will say it would have been a lot harder to do that if I was walking over and I was going to be uncomfortable, because none of us like to do things that make us uncomfortable, right? And that's going to be uncomfortable anyway, but how can I make it less uncomfortable? So that's where I would say that was my modification on that.
Okay. I had a realization when I heard that, that when I'm at work, I share a room with 4 wonderful ladies, but there's a lot of us in one space. And we have a few places where we can put our personal belongings, but my desk is my drawers are full, and typically I'd put things in there. So I've had my lunch out on a cart next to my desk. And it didn't occur to me until I heard James Clear talk about that whole remote thing, that, like, oh my goodness, I know there's certain times that I automatically reach for my lunch bag. And I don't know if it's true hunger, like you were talking about earlier. Is it hunger, or is it the environment? And I don't know. So I'm like, you know what, when I go back to work after break, I'm going to put my lunch bag in the closet. So if I am hungry, maybe I'll think about it and get up and get a snack, but it won't be just sitting there reaching for something.
That's
So
a great idea. Yeah, that's been a big cue for me, is this hunger out of habit.
mm-hmm.
So that's not really hunger, it's a
Right.
habit. Or is it actually hunger? Because in that moment, I would be satisfied with eating some baby carrots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right, I gotta be
exactly.
really hungry.
Exactly.
Or an apple or something, something of that.
Mm-hmm.
So with all of this in mind, everything that we've just kind of talked about, I know you're on spring break, so
Mm-hmm.
that's a change in schedule for you.
Yeah.
We have Easter coming up, and for some people, I know Passover. There's also then, once all of the Easter and everything is consumed, there's leftover Easter candy and Easter food if you celebrate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say now, maybe just looking within the next, for future casting the next several days,
Mm-hmm.
how do you want to get through it? And and I even hate using the word through it, right?
Right.
I hate saying to get through it, because it makes it sound like you're at the mercy of this thing, and we're not at the
Mm-hmm.
mercy of it. We're fully in control of ourselves, and we're fully in control of these days. May not be able to control every bit of food that comes in, but we're
Mm-hmm.
in control of ourselves and can take action out of a place of intentionality, as opposed to a place of passivity.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
what do these next days look like for you?
Well, for me, I am fortunate enough to, at this stage of my life, live by myself. So I don't have the challenge of, having food brought into the house or really anything like that. My mom and I do still exchange Easter baskets, just more
Oh,
mature Easter baskets. And so they're not filled with candy. She's supportive of my journey. And, she's the last person to buy me candy. So I know
wait, then what
that
goes in the Easter basket?
nail polish, sometimes a book. Sometimes they're like,
Oh,
a lot of times I'll ask for one Cadbury egg. So they'll be, if I ask for it, she'll put that in there. Um, like just fun stuff. I don't know, thing like little knickknacks. I know for
okay.
her, I got her some nail polish, and um, I got her a little teeny stuffed animal, and just cute little stuff like
That's
that.
cute.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I'm not at work. So, like, for example, the last week of work, there was a root beer float bar that was like a pop-up thing. There were donuts one day, Krispy Kreme donuts. Um, there were no, there weren't cupcakes. There's always something. There's always some temptation. There's always some access to something junky. If I really wanted to find some candy, somebody has some candy. And I'm,
Mhm.
I'm usually not, sitting around. I'm usually busy enough that I don't have to I don't get a chance to just wander around looking for it, but sometimes it just appears in the staff lounge. And, I do have a lot of coworkers who are very supportive and know my journey, but if they're not around and, I'm tempted, I have grabbed things that have later been like, ugh, what is that? So all that to say, breaks, I tend to do better on breaks because I don't have that level of temptation. If I was traveling, that might be another thing, but because I'm home, I can eat when I want. I don't have junk in the house. So it's more controlled. So for me, that structure is good. It's going to be more challenging going back and feeling like I have had this successful week and then reframing my mind to say, I got to say no to things now. I have to,
Mm,
remember how I felt this past week when I was in control in this controlled environment going into an uncontrolled
yeah.
environment.
Does everybody usually bring in like excess Easter candy and stuff? And is there like a break room where all
Yes.
of that stuff will go?
Yeah, I haven't last year. I actually don't remember that happening last year, but we were back at school, but it was post COVID. So we didn't really have food in the lounge. So this is my first year in this school. With this experience, but so I can imagine that people will. I think I do remember people last year bringing back like taffy from the beach, like all that kind of stuff is going to be there,
Mhm.
with no doubt.
Do you have anything that you employ to help keep yourself
I
away from it, or?
I have a wonderful coworker. I know she's going to hear this and she's probably going to scream, but Elizabeth, this is for you. She one day saw me in the lounge and we like locked eyes and there was cupcakes and I was about to grab one. She's like, I sneezed on all those cupcakes. I was like, oh. And she did not sneeze on the cupcakes, but she was just very supportive in that way. So that's an external thing. That's not internal within me. I was about to grab a cupcake, but I think because I have multiple wonderful accountability partners at work. So it's a matter of me also stepping out and reaching out and asking for their help.
Mhm.
But I have, one who shares a room with me, one who I eat lunch with, another one who, I see around school. So I think it's a matter of knowing that they're there and also using them, allowing them to support me and supporting them too.
Yeah. For us, there is always food. If there is a holiday, you better believe we are pulling out every appliance and we are using it to cook something.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be Easter candy, there will be all of it. Now, thankfully, I can't believe I'm saying that, but thankfully with the food allergies and the food intolerance stuff, that greatly reduces my, ability to indulge. But I will say that for me, Easter, I always have to have a carrot cake. Like
Okay.
I love carrot cake, and it's the only time that I ever make carrot cake is
Okay.
at Easter. And so I told myself that I was going to go ahead and make the carrot cake
Okay.
this time, and I would have a slice. And when it was all said and done, whatever's left over is going to go in the trash. It's not
Okay.
getting frozen. It's not going to anyone else because nobody else really wants carrot cake.
No.
It is what it is. I will say that I do have the carrot cake oats, the baked oats, carrot cake
Ooh, I
oats.
think you did share that once before.
Yep.
Okay.
Which I've shared in the group. And so if you make your own cream cheese frosting, you could put that over top if you have to have carrot cake. I honestly thought about making that
Okay.
because it's, I think it's like, well, for me, oats isn't one of my freebie items. Well, I
Gotcha.
shouldn't say freebie, but I should say 0 point. It's not one of my 0 point options. So it ends up, I think, being like 4 points a slice for me.
Okay.
But because there are other people involved, and if there's carrot cake, they're going to think that this is weird because it's baked oats and not a carrot cake. So I want to honor the expectation of a carrot cake.
Okay.
So I'll be doing carrot cake, and I love jelly beans and I
Okay.
love Peeps. I just do. I know all y'all hate you and Candice hate Peeps, but I love Peeps. And they came out with all of these different flavors this year. There's like a mocha.
This is like 3 strikes in a row for you because you said carrot cake, then you said jelly beans, and then you said Peeps. All of those of which I think are disgusting.
And listen, and there's levels of jelly beans. There's the Starburst jelly beans, which in my opinion are the pinnacle of jelly beans. Okay.
You see, I don't mind Jelly Belly. When I was really, 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 really on it, like 10 years ago on Weight Watchers, I would go to the store and I would go to the ones where they had the jelly bean selectors. So they had them divided by flavor. And I would mix up my bag with flavor because I didn't like all the flavors. I just liked a few selected ones and I put them in the bag. And they were like not too high in sugar. Or at least they're not high in fat. Maybe that's what it is. I think
that's because
they advertise as a
sugar.
low fat thing. So I think that kind of sucks you in. And yeah, they're still high, but they're not high in points if you do like a small serving. At least they weren't. This was like 10 years ago.
We're talking 10 years ago before they changed the tracker to account for all the sugar.
Right? Yes. So back then, I'm pretty sure I could have like maybe not a handful, maybe 10 or 12 for like a point or two. But I was counting my jelly beans but yeah, all that to say, those were the only jelly beans I ever would tolerate in my life.
Well, all that to say for me is I'm doing it in moderation.
Okay.
I'm making sure I'm going to be doing roasted carrots. I'm going to be bringing some things to the dinner that I'll count as, my vegetable. That'll still be really good and really tasty for everybody. And I'll feel good about, but I don't personally, for me, I would feel deprived if I didn't have the carrot cake, and I would feel deprived if I didn't have the jelly beans, and I would feel deprived if I didn't have the Peeps.
Okay.
Do I need to have all of them in the same day?
Right.
No, I don't need to have all of them in the same day. And
Mhm.
so for me, what I'm looking at is when and how do I want to consume them?
Okay.
And spreading it out. I really don't want to be carrying a week's worth of jelly beans
Mhm.
in my tracker, but if I'm going to do jelly beans, I'm just going to do them and be done with it.
Okay.
Because I know me, if I do them every day for a week, that's going to lead me into eating,
Mhm.
making some poor food choices.
So does that
Um,
mean you're gonna be throwing some of them away? Like, what's
no, I'm
gonna
going to eat the whole bag at once. No, I'm kidding.
just thought I'd check because I know we said we're throwing away the
Yeah,
cake. Just want to check about the
yeah.
jelly beans too.
I was gonna get I was gonna get a little mini bag
Smart.
of
Yes,
them.
that's good. It's a good
Yes.
idea.
But I don't like the pecan nougat egg. Man, I wish I could still do that. Man, I would be doing
Okay.
that. I would be doing I would have a Cadbury cream egg and then like the Cadbury eggs, the little chocolate ones with the crunchy
Uh-huh.
shell, man.
Oh, those are good
Those
too.
are so good. They're
Yes.
so good. But you don't have to do all of them at once.
Mhm.
I can't eat any of those, so now I'm relinquished from that. That's
Right.
fine.
And they've
Um,
also made a lot of those things less special because, like, if you around Halloween, they like change the color of the egg, and like you can find them in the store, and I think they sell the other little eggs at other times too. It's like, why is this? It's not
yeah,
special anymore if I can get it all year round.
they do them at Christmas, the little red and green balls.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's my plan is that it's not a whole week.
Hmm.
It's just a day. And it's not that I'm returning back to the plan on Monday.
Hmm.
I'm trying to eliminate that language to make it sound like I'm off plan because I'm not. Because I want to honor the work that I've been doing, and I
Hmm.
also want to make sure again as I'm looking at this is life,
Yes.
right? I don't step away from that. This is part of the day.
Hmm.
And then when Monday rolls around, I'll continue with what I would do on a Monday.
Hmm.
And then I'll continue with what I would do on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And if there are leftover foods, I would figure out how am I going to incorporate them into this week or not
Hmm.
incorporate them. Just because the food is there doesn't mean I have to eat it.
Yeah.
I think that's another big step to be able to say, you know what? We may have 2 cups of potato salad left over, but
Hmm.
I don't have to be the one that eats this 2 cups of potato salad throughout the week. It's
Hmm.
the food waste thing,
Right.
right? I don't know why we landed on children in Africa, but
Right.
somewhere those children are starving, and because they're starving, I
Hmm.
have to eat this food as
Hmm.
opposed to just giving money to support the kids
Right.
so that they can have, food.
Right. Yeah, I think part of that planning, as you're talking, I was thinking about the Saturday, those of us who weigh in on Saturdays, a lot of times those holidays it can be beneficial to have a weekend weigh in, but it also can be challenging because a lot of us have been in the mentality of a reset, like Saturday morning, it's reset. I have all these points and I can splurge on something today if I want. But I think being aware of that in general is helpful because like you said, it should be another day in the plan. And also, if I know there's going to be something special on Sunday, why not, instead of just making Saturday a special day just because I can, why not save those points, eat regularly on Saturday, and know that they're there for
Mhm.
you during the holiday?
It's the radical accountability to the
Hmm.
tracker. I
Yes.
think that's what's kind of guiding me right now is the radical accountability to the tracker. And there's no there's no disappointment. I'm going to eat the carrot cake and I already know that carrot cake is going to be roughly 17 points
Hmm.
for the piece of cake. I get 23 points. Guess what? I'm going to be going over my points.
Hmm.
Okay, there it is. But I'm being radically accountable to my tracker by putting it in there and being aware of it. And I'm not going to shortchange myself
Hmm.
with it. I'm going to enjoy it because this is life.
Hmm.
This is what this is about. This is why we're doing this programs to help us eat, well for life.
Hmm.
And I will just continue to walk, shut my laptop off at 4 p.m., go for my walk
Hmm.
and get my water, get my vegetables.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping, at the other end, I will see a maintain or a loss. But if
Mhm.
I don't, it's not the end of it all
Yeah.
because of the specialness of what the day was.
Mhm.
So I just don't want to be beholden in my brain to it anymore like that, you know?
Yeah. I think part of what I'm hearing too is you're removing the shame from it. I think there can be shame in thinking, "Oh my gosh, what?" Even within communities where people are, well-meaning, but I've heard people say before at times, "Oh, I would never spend, 17 points on something." And that's, I don't think anyone's saying that to be critical or, and I'm not judging anyone for if they've ever said that. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular, but it's just I think there's shame in spending a lot of points and there's shame in you know over I think we have identify that as overeating when in a way it's like, okay, this is an isolated planned event.
Right.
Do I have to feel bad about it? I shouldn't be associating this choice with being bad or overeating. This is not a binge. This is a
Right.
planned thing, and I can be happy with that choice and move on.
Right. And my pivot is always if you gained weight this week and you're gaining next week and you gain the week after, you may not have spent 17 points all at once on one thing, but you're
Mhm,
spending far greater points and either not tracking it,
mhm,
right? Or you're significantly over because there's a weight gain that's associated with it. Multiple
mhm,
one week is, okay, maybe you didn't get the weight and you deserve the week you deserve it. But if it's multiple weeks in a row, that's
mhm.
an active choice. So
Yeah.
but yes, that's exactly it. Taking the shame from around it. And this is a choice. It's a conscious choice. It's a
Mhm,
tracked choice. I'm doing this in complete freedom.
mhm,
And here we go on to the next day. It doesn't
mhm.
hold any weight over me anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Just move on.
That's it. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up here. We hope you have a great holiday week. And if it's not a holiday week for you, it's an Easter break week, or it's maybe just a normal week. Either way, we hope it's a really great week for you. And you're always welcome to join us. And we have a lot of different groups different ways that you can find us. We have the Real WW Talk Facebook group on
Mhm.
Facebook. Just search Real WW Talk. We're also on Instagram. We are on YouTube. If you want to see what we look like today, I am representing the Baltimore Orioles because it is the home opener, even though the Orioles are going to come dead last this year. Whatever. I'm still repping for the hometown. And then, of course, the podcast, if you ever want to go for a walk and you got done listening to all of the WW walk and talks, and they're like, you know what? I wouldn't mind hearing them jibber jabber in my ear. Just find us any place where you listen to podcasts. You can search Real WW Talk.
Yes, and you can also email us at realwwtalk@gmail.com.
We love to hear from you. All right. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.